One of the biggest struggles that I had when I was studying for any of the CompTIA exams were finding practice questions, but not just any practice question. I wanted practice questions that were getting answered in real time so I could see the thought process that went into answering each one. And in this video, I go through 20 CompTIA Cybersecurity Analyst Plus, also known as the CySA Plus, practice questions, very similar in format to what you'll see on the actual exam. So let's go ahead and get started. Hopefully I get them all right. If I don't, it is what it is, but let me know how you do in the comments below. All right, let's go ahead and get started with the CySA Plus Part 1. Hopefully I get them all right. We'll see. Question 1. Your organization SIM system alerts you to abnormal activity within a log file. Numerous failed login attempts from diverse IPs against a single user account, followed by one successful login from an unknown location. What system and network concepts are crucial for your initial investigation? A. File integrity monitoring and hash comparisons. B. Security policies and compliance regulations. C. Incident response procedures and chain of custody. Or D. IP geolocation and traffic flow analysis. All right, so let's do the process of elimination for this one. I'm going to rule out A. File integrity monitoring focuses on system files, right? So it wouldn't be necessarily on the user's activity logs. So I'm going to rule out A. It wouldn't be B. Security policies and regulations are important, but less urgent than identifying the immediate threat. So B's out. It wouldn't be C either. Incident response and chain of custody, they're crucial, but they come after establishing the nature of the breach. So I'm going to go with D on this one. I mean, initial investigation would have you checking IP geolocation and traffic flow analysis. So going with D. IP geolocation can expose the attacker's potential origins, and traffic flow analysis helps visualize the attack patterns and lateral movement attempts, offering clues about the attacker's goals. Question 2. Your organization's network has experienced a surge in unauthorized access attempts. You suspect the attacker might be targeting a specific department. Which of the following would be the most effective in isolating the department's network and mitigating the attack? A. Implement stronger password policies for all users across the organization. B. Deploy a next-generation firewall with advanced intrusion detection capabilities. C. Configure VLANs to segregate the department's network from the rest of the organization. Or D. Enable multi-factor authentication for all user accounts. All right, so the best answer that would be the most effective in isolating the department's network and mitigating the attack. Okay, so that's what it's asking here. So let's go through them here. For A, strong passwords, they don't isolate. For B, a next generation firewall also wouldn't necessarily isolate. For C, this is the best option so far, I would say. VLANs can logically isolate a network, and that would, in return, help prevent the attacker from lateral movement. And D, MFA doesn't isolate. So the only one that makes sense here would be C with the VLANs. So I'm going to go with C here. VLAN segmentation is a critical security control that restricts unauthorized access and minimizes the potential impact of a breach. By isolating the department's network, you can contain the attack and prevent it from spreading to other parts of the organization. Question 3. Your organization recently experienced a data breach involving the theft of customer credit card information. The investigation revealed the attackers gained initial access through a social engineering attack that tricked an employee into clicking on a malicious link. In the context of the incident management lifecycle, which of the following activities would be the least effective in preventing a similar incident from happening again? A. Implementing mandatory phishing awareness training for all employees. B. Updating incident response plan to include procedures for social engineering attacks. C. Deploying a web filtering solution to block access to known malicious websites. Or D. Conducting a root cause analysis to understand how the social engineering attack succeeded. Okay, so the least effective activity in preventing a similar incident from happening again. So all these are technically methods that would work and are realistic in real life events like this one, but the question is the least effective. With that said, I'm going to go with C here. While in practice it seems like a great idea, it isn't really effective if the malicious website isn't known, right? A lot of sophisticated phishing attacks use different domains frequently, so filtering it wouldn't be a good solution for this particular scenario. Yep, I'm going to go with C out of all these, the one that make the most sense. Yep. While all options contribute to improving your security posture, focusing on user education, updating response procedures, and analyzing the root cause offers a more comprehensive approach to preventing future social engineering attacks rather than solely relying on potential bypass web filtering solutions. Question 4. You're analyzing a recent ransomware attack on your organization's network. The attackers gained initial access through a phishing email, compromised a user account, and then deployed the ransomware across multiple systems. Which attack methodology framework would help the best in understanding the attacker's tactics, techniques, and procedures used in this scenario? We have NIST Cybersecurity Framework, B. Open Web Application Security Project, C. The MITRE Attack Framework, or D. National Vulnerability Database. All right, so a framework question. So an important thing to point out here that in the scenario, it displayed the steps on how the attacker performed the ransomware attack. And that's kind of key for this one here. And with that said, the only framework on this list that focuses on mapping an attack is the MITRE attack framework. So I'm going to go with C for this one. While all options contribute to cybersecurity practices, the MITRE attack framework is specifically designed to offer detailed information on the attacker TTPs, making it the most suitable choice for understanding the tactics used in this ransomware attack scenario. Question 5. You've identified a phishing campaign targeting your organization, and several employees have clicked on the malicious link in the emails. You suspect some devices might be infected with malware. What is the most important action to take after identifying this potential compromise? A. Immediately reset passwords for all employees. B. Analyze email server logs to identify the specific malware variant used in the attack. C. Isolate potentially infected devices from the network and investigate them individually. D. Implement multi-factor authentication for all user accounts. Okay. All right, so in this scenario, it's important to assume that the devices have been infected with malware, even if they haven't been, right? You don't take chances. You know there's a phishing campaign and several employees clicked the link in the email, right? So the most important thing to do when there's a chance that something has been compromised is to isolate. So you're going to isolate the devices and then continue your investigation. So although all the other options are great options and they do happen during incident response, for this particular scenario, C would be the best option. Going with C. While all options are important security practices, prioritizing the isolation of potentially infected devices to prevent further spread and allow for individual investigation remains the most crucial action to mitigate the immediate threat. Question 6. You're investigating a user account suspected of malicious activity. The user recently accessed several unauthorized files and attempted to transfer sensitive data to an external IP address. While reviewing system logs, you notice consistent login attempts from geographically diverse locations. Which of the following is the most effective tool or technique to further investigate this suspicious behavior? We have A, manually analyze network traffic logs to identify the transferred data and its destination. B, utilize a SIM system to correlate logs and identify potential anomalies. C, scan the user's device for malware using a traditional antivirus program. Or D, reset the user's password and disable their account immediately. Okay, so right away I'm going to eliminate C and D. For both of these options wouldn't help further investigate the behavior. So that leaves us with A or B. And this is one of those questions where both can technically be correct, but only one of them is the best answer. So it's a common CompTIA type question here. With that said, I'm going to go with B over A. Main reason, with the SIM, you can potentially have network traffic logs included in that. You can correlate, you can do a whole lot of stuff that would make it a better option in this particular scenario than A. So I'm going to go with B. Using a SIM offers a more efficient and insightful approach to investigating suspicious user activity by correlating data from various sources and identifying potential patterns that might be missed through individual log analysis. Question 7. Your organization's SIM system detected unusual activity on a user account belonging to a privileged administrator. The activity involves accessing sensitive data and attempting to download large files outside of normal working hours. You suspect this might be unauthorized access. Given the potential severity of the situation, which of the following actions should you take immediately to address this potential security breach? We have A, launch a full investigation to determine the origin and scope of the suspicious activity. B, change the password for the compromised administrator account. C, disable the compromised administrator account to prevent further access. Or D, educate all employees about the importance of strong password hygiene. All right. So realistically, you would launch an investigation. But the question is, which actions would you take immediately to address this potential security incident? Out of all of these, I'm going to go with C, and that is to disable the compromised administrator account to prevent further access. And the reason why I'm going with C over B is because changing the password could still give the attacker access depending on the method of attack, but disabling would just straight up disable the account. So with this scenario and the information given, I'm going to go with C. Immediate account disablement is the most critical step to prevent further damage from the suspected unauthorized access with elevated privileges. Question 8. Your organization recently experienced a data breach involving the unauthorized access and exfiltration of customer payment card data. You suspect the attacker gained access through a compromised user account. Law enforcement is now involved and has requested a forensic examination of the compromised user's workstation. Which of the following actions should you take immediately after powering down the workstation? We have A, download and analyze all user files from the workstation. B, boot the workstation into a live forensic environment. C, connect the workstation to the network to facilitate investigation. D, wipe the workstation to remove potential evidence. Okay. So a few things here. To me, it's a pretty straightforward question, but there's a few things I want to point out here. The important thing to know is that law enforcement is now involved. That's been stated. And they requested a forensic examination of the user's workstation. Now, the first thing that you would do would be to do a complete image of the computer. However, you would do that before powering down. So we're going to assume that that has already been done. So that's why I'm not choosing A. I'm going to go with B on this one, to boot the workstation into a live forensic environment. Yep, going with B. Immediately booting into a live forensic environment prioritizes the preservation and integrity of digital evidence, crucial for legal proceedings and effective investigations. Question 9. Your organization recently conducted a vulnerability scan of your web server infrastructure. The scan report identified several high-severity vulnerabilities in a widely used content management system used to manage your website content. Which of the following factors should you consider most when determining which vulnerabilities to address first? A, the number of affected systems based on the scan report. B, the date the vulnerability was publicly disclosed. C, the ease and speed with which the vulnerability can be patched. Or D, the potential impact of the vulnerability on your organization's critical assets. All right, so when dealing with a vulnerability report, the most important thing to factor in would be the potential impact of the vulnerability. So pretty straightforward scenario here. And with that said, I'm going with D. Prioritizing based on potential impact ensures that the vulnerabilities posing the greatest risk to your organization's critical assets and operations are addressed first. Question 10. Halfway there. A vulnerability scan identifies a critical security flaw in a widely used server application. The vendor has released a patch, but your organization has a strict change control policy with a lengthy approval process. What is the most important action to take while waiting for the patch to be approved? A, completely isolate the affected servers from the network. B, deploy a signature-based IDS to detect exploit attempts. C, schedule additional vulnerability scans to monitor for new vulnerabilities. D, update internal documentation with mitigation strategies. Okay. So for a situation like this, it's important to balance risk mitigation with business needs. Ideally, we would isolate the affected server from the network, but the scenario specifically points out that it is a widely used server application, meaning it's likely business critical, right? Now, the question doesn't really have any great answers based on the scenario, which is also a common format for CompTIA type questions with answers being very vague. But given the possible answers, in my opinion, B would be the best option. Based on the scenario, based on it saying it's, a critical, widely used server application, I don't feel comfortable just completely isolating it from the network. But deploying a signature-based IDS to help detect exploit attempts and being on top of it would be a good compromise. So I'm going to go with B here. I could be wrong. It could be A. But I'm going to go with B. Okay, perfect. While complete isolation might seem like the safest option, it may not be viable due to potential business impacts. Deploying an IDS to detect and potentially block exploit attempts targeting the vulnerability will be the best option. Question 11. Your organization is considering implementing a new cloud-based storage solution. The vendor provides a security report detailing various potential security risks associated with their service. Each risk is assigned a likelihood and impact rating, resulting in a combined risk score. How does the risk score associated with each security risk in the vendor's report most benefit your organization? A. The security score directly translates to the cost of mitigating each specific risk. B. The risk score definitively identifies which risks require immediate attention. C. The risk score allows for a comparative analysis of different security risks, enabling prioritization based on severity. Or D. A high-risk score automatically disqualifies the vendor's cloud storage solution. All right. So yes, sometimes a company will provide a security report that has information about risks. If you use their services, it's completely normal. But what you're supposed to do is compare their risks to the structure of your organization. That way you can prioritize different security risks based on severity. So based on that, I'm going to go with C. The risk score combining likelihood and impact allows for comparing different security risks. This enables prioritizing those with the highest potential for causing significant damage, which is high impact, or those that are likely to occur, high likelihood. Question 12. Your organization recently experienced a successful phishing attack. The attacker gained access to a user account and used it to install a program on a Windows workstation. You suspect the program might be malicious. When attempting to analyze the program, you discover it has a digitally signed executable file but lacks a valid publisher certificate. What does the lack of a valid publisher certificate for the digitally signed program most likely indicate? A. The program is safe because it's digitally signed. B. The program is malicious because it lacks a valid publisher certificate. C. The digital signature is likely forged and the program's legitimacy is questionable. D. The program requires administrator privileges to run regardless of the certificate validity. Okay, so we know there was a successful phishing attack. And because of that, we know the attacker installed a program on a Windows workstation. And that program has a digitally signed file but lacks a valid publisher certificate. So let's go ahead and look at these one by one. So for A, that's not true. A program that is signed can still be malicious. I just want to point that out. For B, that's not true for the complete opposite reason. Just because it doesn't have a valid publisher certificate, that doesn't mean it's malicious. For C, this is the best one so far. For D, that just doesn't satisfy the question, in my opinion, and is completely irrelevant to the scenario. I'm going to go with C. To me, this one makes the most sense. I mean, digital signatures can still be compromised. So I'm going to go with C. Let's see what it is. The lack of a valid publisher certificate suggests a potential attempt to bypass security measures by using a forged signature. This raises red flags and necessitates further analysis to determine the program's legitimacy before execution. Question 13. Your organization experienced a ransomware attack. The attack successfully encrypted critical data on multiple servers, disrupting core business operations. The IT security team has successfully isolated the infected systems, stopped the ransomware spread, and contained the attack. They are now focusing on restoring data from backups and resuming normal business operations. Which phase best describes the current phase? A. Containment, eradication, and recovery. B. Detection and analysis. C. Preparation. Or D. Post-incident review. All right, so let's take a look here and go through each phase. All right, so phase 1, preparation. The attack has already occurred, so ruling that one out. Phase 2, detection and analysis. This happens before containing the attack, so I'm ruling that one out since containment has already happened. It's not post-incident review. This happens after everything is back to normal, and then take notes, lessons learned, things like that. So the only one that would make sense would be containment, eradication, and recovery. The containment and eradication have already happened, but now they're working on recovery, and I know that because the scenario says they are restoring data from backups and resuming normal business operations, and that's part of recovery. So I'm going with A. The scenario describes activities focused on restoring functionality and learning from the incident. This aligns most closely with the recovery phase of the IRP, which is Incident Response Plan, where the primary aim is to restore operations, minimize downtime, and identify areas for improvement to prevent similar incidents in the future. Question 14. It looks like a log question. Nice. Your organization is investigating a potential security incident involving unauthorized access to a cloud storage bucket. You have access to a portion of the cloud storage access logs in the following format. Take a look at that in a minute. Which of the following observations from the log example is the most concerning? A. The internal server 172.16.0.10 performing a list request on the /restricted directory. B. The successful upload, which is a put action, of a new file by an internal user to a public directory. C. The external IP address, attempting to access a restricted file named financial report. It's a PDF within the restricted directory. Or D, multiple requests from the same internal user. Okay, so let's go ahead. The reason why I didn't read out the log is because when I get log questions on CompTIA exams, and you will get log questions on the CompTIA CySA Plus exam, I read the questions first. A lot of times I read the answers first because it could sometimes give you the answer within the answer, if that makes sense. Let's go ahead and look back at the log here. So we have 10.0.0.1, which is an internal user doing a GET request to user data, which is a CSV file, within the public directory, and it gave us a 200 response code. Okay. We have an internal server, which is 172.16.0.10, doing a list request within a restricted directory with a 403. We have 10.1.1.10, which is an external IP, do a GET request for the file financial report PDF file within the restricted directory, and it gave us a 400 status code, and it looks to be 403. Can't really tell based on the screenshot here. I'm assuming it's a 400 error regardless. And then we have 10.0.0.1, which is an internal user doing a put request to a file called new file. It's a text file within the directory of public, and it's a 200 status request they got out of that. Okay, so let's go ahead and go through each one here. So for A, an internal server doing a list request can be both normal and malicious, but with that being said, we don't have enough information to make that call, so I'm going to rule out A. For B, this can be completely normal business operations. So to me, it's kind of hard to choose this one. And it doesn't have anything to do with unauthorized access as well. So I'm going to skip B. For C, this one seems to be the most concerning so far. I want to point out that it says it is attempting, but the scenario also says potential security incident, meaning that we don't know the full depth of the incident yet. So far, C is a good one. For D, multiple requests could be a completely normal thing. It could be malicious, but it could also be normal. We don't know based on the information given. I'm going to go with C for this one. The scenario emphasizes the importance of understanding access controls. While internal users and some internal server activity might be expected, attempts to access restricted data from external sources are a red flag that requires further investigation to determine legitimate or potential malicious intent. Question 15. An employee receives an email that appears to be from their company's IT department. The email warns them about suspicious activity on their account and urges them to immediately verify their login credentials by clicking a link in the email. Which of the following elements of social engineering did the malicious actor use? A. Spoofing a sender address to appear legitimate. B. Creating a sense of urgency. C. Requesting login credentials. Or D. All of the above. Okay, so let's go through each one here to see if the element was used. So for A, spoofing, okay, and it says an employee received an email that appears to be from their company's IT department. So this one qualifies. For B, it says urges them to immediately verify their login credentials. That's a sense of urgency. So this one also qualifies. For C, it says verify their login credentials. So it's asking for login credentials. So this one qualifies. So all of the elements are applicable in this scenario. So I'm going to go with D, all of the above. D is the most accurate answer because all three elements, spoofing, urgency, and direct credential requests, work together to make the email appear legitimate and increase the chance of the user clicking the malicious link and compromising their credentials. Question 16. An employee working from home receives a voicemail claiming to be from their ISP, Internet Service Provider. The voicemail warns of an imminent service disruption due to a critical security issue. It instructs the employee to call a specific phone number to resolve the issue and avoid an internet outage. Which of the following actions by the employee demonstrates the best defense against this scenario? A. Call the phone number provided in the voicemail immediately to resolve the issue. B. Ignore the voicemail entirely, assuming it's a spam or marketing call. C. Contact the ISP's customer service department directly using the phone number listed on their official website. Or D. Forward the voicemail to their IT department for investigation without taking any further action. All right, I'm glad this is on here. A good rule of thumb when you get a phone call from company or even friends or family or a coworker, anything like that, that have hints towards being a scam, it's extremely important to hang up and call the official number, whether that is the friend or family member directly or the business, anything like that. Call them directly. The reason why is because phone numbers can be spoofed, and calling the number directly is the best way to ensure it's legitimate. The other answers aren't necessarily bad answers, but with this particular scenario, C is going to be the best option. So I'm going with C. Social engineering attacks often rely on urgency and a sense of fear. Verifying the information directly with the ISP disrupts the attacker's flow and allows the employee to confirm the legitimacy of the message before taking any further action. Question 17. Your organization is implementing a new security awareness training program for employees. The program focuses heavily on technical details of vulnerabilities and exploits, assuming a baseline technical understanding from all participants. Which of the following approaches is the least effective for your organization? A. Provide real-world examples of social engineering attacks to illustrate potential threats. B. Offer interactive training modules that allow employees to practice identifying phishing attempts. C. Deliver the training in short focus modules to maintain employee engagement. D. Conduct in-depth technical explanations of encryption, algorithms, and network protocols. Okay, so I've actually had the opportunity to develop and lead some security awareness trainings, and some key things to the success of the trainings regarded usually two things, which were influencing engagement and explaining in simple terms no matter the audience, right? Because it's really important to design the training for all types of audiences, no matter what their level of technical skills are. Anyway, with that said, the least effective would be D. Although in the scenario, it states that there's a baseline understanding, or they expect a baseline understanding, they might not have a baseline understanding. And it's important to not overload participants with information. So I'm going to go with D here as the least effective way. Real-world examples, interactive modules, and shorter training modules all contribute to a more engaging and effective training program that caters to a wider range of technical proficiencies within the employee population. Question 18. You are a security analyst working for a large retail company. You receive an alert indicating a potential data breach on a server containing customer payment card information. The alert shows unauthorized access attempts and suspicious data exfiltration activity. Which of the following actions would be the most important step to this investigation? A. Document the incident details and begin investigating the scope of the breach. B. Immediately notify law enforcement and the media to raise public awareness. C. Secure the affected server and isolate it from the network to prevent further data exfiltration. D. Contact the company's legal team to determine the appropriate course of action. All right, so pretty straightforward one here with the given scenario, I would say. If you're a security analyst and you get an alert about potential data exfiltration, especially regarding customer payment card information, the most important thing to do would be to contain. Note that it's not asking what the first thing to do is, but the most important step of the investigation. And that's going to be C, containment. So going with C here. The answer prioritizes the most important action to stop the breach while acknowledging the need for further investigation, legal consultation, and potential communication. Question 19. A natural disaster has caused a power outage and significant damage to your organization's primary data center. The backup center is located hundreds of miles away and has limited operational capacity. Which of the following actions is the most effective approach to prioritize during the initial recovery phase? A. Immediately attempt to restore all critical systems and data to the backup data center. B. Focus on restoring only the most essential systems required for core business functions. C. Start the recovery phase by communicating the impact to all employees. D. Adapt and change disaster recovery plans depending on the impacts of the disaster. All right, so it's asking the most effective approach during the recovery phase. Okay, so something important to point out here is that the scenario states the backup center has limited operational capacity. So with that said, I'm going to rule out A. And the reason why is because that could cause a resource problem. So I'm going to rule out A. I'm going to rule out C as well. I mean, communication may be extremely limited due to the disaster. And this also wouldn't happen during the recovery phase. That would have happened already. So I'm ruling out C. D also wouldn't happen during the recovery phase. It would happen during lessons learned in preparation between those. So I would say B is the best answer here. Disaster recovery prioritizes restoring essential functions quickly, even with limitations. Focusing on the core business systems ensures minimal disruption and a faster path to normal business operations. All right, question 20, last question. A company is concerned about the growing number of zero-day attacks targeting their systems. These attacks exploit vulnerabilities before a patch is available. Which of the following security controls would be the most effective in mitigating the risk of zero-day attacks? A. Intrusion detection and prevention systems. B. Regular vulnerability scanning. C. Patch management with a focus on rapid deployment. Or D. User education and awareness training. All right, so a security control that would be best to mitigate the risk of zero-day attacks. So the answer to this would be something that isn't planned, or a control that requires signatures to be effective. And with that said, out of all these, A would be the best answer. Let's go ahead and go through them. For B, vulnerability scanners can't detect zero-day exploits based off of signatures. C, this would be the right answer if it was asking how to respond to the known zero-day exploits once you get a fix for them. And then D, user education is important, but it doesn't prevent zero-day exploits. For A, I mean, an intrusion detection system and an intrusion prevention system can work based on network behavior, which could prevent a potential zero-day before it even happens. So out of all of these, I'm going to go with A. It makes the most sense. Intrusion detection and prevention systems monitor network traffic and system activity for malicious behavior. They can identify and potentially block suspicious activity even if it exploits an unknown vulnerability, also known as a zero-day attack. All right. Well, if you're here, I appreciate you going through these with me. Hopefully you'll learn some things. Hopefully you got an idea on how I answer them and how I did it with the actual exam. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, go ahead and leave them in the comments below. Expect another one next week with different questions. I enjoy doing these, and my friend actually helps me with making them. I give the objectives. He gives me the questions. So, yeah, thank you.